In this video, I wanted to show you a quick and handy way to lerp between three colors in a shader. And of course, you can also use that to lerp between any kind of three values. So here I have a texture and I'm using the texture value as an input while it's in a range that goes from 0 to 1. And then here I have the sliders that I can use to determine which color should show based on the input that I just showed you. So I have the first color here, and I can say anything below that value. I just want to have purely that color. And it also has, and it also has 0 alpha, right? So it becomes invisible. If I crank this up, then this will kind of disappear. And let's keep this here. And so between this point and that point, I want to lerp to the next color. So if I start this really early, now it's a little bit bright. And let's make this down a bit. That looks really ugly. So I guess we should probably lerp it for a while and not have this too soon. Something like that. And Unity keeps putting that window outside. Something like that. I'll try a little bit less. And then here the same, right? Until this slider, it's going to be fully that color now, right? So from here to there, we're going to use color 2. And then we can define where we want to lerp to the third color. So from here to here, this texture doesn't have values that go all the way to 1. So it's let's push this down a bit. But yeah, and you can see here, right? So maybe we have more glowing purple. Of course, can have this with cyan. And of course, the input can be anything. So for example, here I'm simply using the radius as the input. And that will also help to make this point even clearer. So I can say until here, I want to have fully this glowing color. And in the middle, I have black, which is kind of cool because when you use this HDR values and then you lerp them towards black, then they're really going to show like they're nice saturated colors because the HDR isn't going to make them so bright. If I bring these really close together, right, you can see this is the lerping range. And if I have them almost here, I get a really sharp edge. And I didn't clamp the values yet, which I might probably do, because if I do this, then things get weird. But yeah, so you can get like a really nice sharp edge. You can say, now I want to keep this lerping all the way till here. And then here on the outside, it's the same, right? I can say, I want to start lerping at the very end of the radius towards the blue, or really soon. And then you can find also want to finish that lerp right here, right at 0.8. And so that gives you like, a lot of nice control. So let's take a look at how to do that in the shader. And then also in the end, I'll show you how to, have a bit fun with that by plugging this into a sine wave and create some really interesting patterns. I've put all of that functionality into an Amplify Shader function, which is very similar to subgraphs in Shader Graph. And of course, the setup is going to be pretty much the same in Shader Graph. So if I click in here, is the color lerp. So basically what this function does is it takes a value that goes from 0 to 1. And for every different value, it's going to return a color. That's really the high level input output, right? Take 0 to 1, return a color. And of course, I want to have 3 colors that I can put in and then blend smoothly between them. Let me show you this real quick. So let's say this is our input, right? So the 0 here and the 1, that will be the white one. The first thing we're going to do is blend between the first 2 colors. And the first slider that I showed you is the blend start and the blend done. So we're going to take our T and we're going to remap it. We take the blend start as the min and the blend done as the max range. And we output this to 0 to 1. And then very important, we're going to saturate it, which means we're going to clamp the value between 0 and 1. So let's say we want to go from like 0.3 to 0.4. And anything below here, I want this to be the first color. And this range is where we're going to lerp between the 2 colors. And then later here, this is going to be color 2, right? So this would be 0.43, 0.4. So what this does is the blend start, if you pass in like, so you say the min is 0.3 and you pass in a lower value, you're going to get a negative value. But since we're using the saturate node, so this is all going to be 1. Sorry, this is all going to be 0, right? So it's just going to say 0. And then, of course, when we pass that into our lerp here, that means just give me color 1, right? Don't even start blending. And now between 0.3 and 0.4, this is where we're going to get our 0 to 1 range. And then 0.4, again, if you pass in a higher value than this maximum and you map to 0 to 1, it's going to give you something above 1, but we're using the saturate. So anything here to there is just going to be 1. So this is how we lerp between the first 2 colors. And then for the second block, the color 2 to color 3, we are going to do the same. Right? We get in T, we have a start and a blend done value. We remap it to 0 to 1. Saturated, of course, we're going to get negative values and values above 1, most likely. And then we use that to lerp between color 2 and color 3. So in here, this would be then, let's have a second block, some nice purple. All right, let's say we want to go from this to, like, that would be 0.6 and 0.9. So this would be C2 start would be 0.6 and 0.9 would be C2 blend done. So this is going to be our new 0 to 1 range. And so now we have these 2 blocks, and all we have to do now is use this compare node and say if T is smaller than where we want to be done with color 1, then we're going to use the first block. So this would be 0.4. This is where we're done. And of course, you can also use any kind of input and you can modify that input. So the selected color source, that was either the texture value or the radius that I had here. And it goes from 0 to 1, but we can also take that and, for example, if we multiply it with 2 times pi, right? So a sine wave always starts at like minus pi and goes to pi, and then it does like one full back and forth. Then we multiply this with an integer, so it can actually happen multiple times. But plug that into a sine wave, so we get this minus 1 to 1. So we need to remap this to 0 to 1. And now if we plug this in here, and then you can do all kinds of things, right? If I increase the waves here, right, we get this nice pattern. And of course, I can determine how big and how sharp these things are supposed to be. Where do we want to start this? This is, maybe get this down a bit. Or maybe even make this like, well, not blue, but like dark red. Let's see. So kind of like a procedural cooking plate, I guess. And of course, you can also plug the texture value into this like sine wave and get some interesting effects. Right here, you're just gonna get like a thin outline. Okay, so thanks for watching. I hope you've learned something. And in the next video, I'm going to continue with the Cyber Ad model. I just thought I'd make a separate video for this one, as I'm using this 3-color lerp quite often, and then I can reference that video and don't have to go through that every time. And I think in the future, I'm going to make quite a few of those, like basically Amplify Shader functions, right? All these like little useful things so I can reference them and then continue making videos. Okay. So thanks for watching, and of course liking, subscribing always helps. If you have a question, feedback, request, anything, just leave a comment below and see you in the next video. Goodbye.